When your quiet strength finally gets noticed, begins with a truth many chosen ones understand deeply, even if they rarely speak about it. For years, sometimes even decades, you may have been building abilities that few people seem to notice. The world often celebrates loud achievements and obvious success, but the most meaningful strengths are usually developed in silence. Wisdom, resilience, emotional awareness, creativity, and spiritual insight do not always appear dramatic on the surface. They grow quietly, shaped by experiences that others never fully see. While people around you may have focused on more visible accomplishments, you were cultivating something deeper beneath the surface. Many chosen ones spend long seasons feeling as though their efforts are invisible. You may have worked tirelessly on your personal growth, learning from difficult situations, refining your thinking, and strengthening your character in moments when no one was watching. These kinds of abilities rarely attract immediate attention because they are not built through applause or public recognition. They are built through persistence. Every challenge you endured, every moment when you chose patience over frustration, every time you reflected instead of reacting impulsively, you were shaping a kind of strength that cannot be easily measured. Because these qualities grow internally, they are often misunderstood by people who only recognize success when it is displayed openly. Someone observing from the outside might not see the emotional discipline you developed after overcoming hardship. They may not notice the quiet wisdom behind the decisions you make. Your creativity, insight, or spiritual awareness might even appear unusual or difficult to understand. In some cases, others may have mistaken your calmness for passivity or your depth for distance. What they failed to recognize was the strength behind that quiet presence.
This is why many chosen ones experience long periods of being overlooked. The world tends to notice noise before it notices substance. It celebrates immediate results before it understands the deeper process behind them. When your strengths operate through subtle awareness, thoughtful decisions, or emotional intelligence, they can remain hidden in plain sight. You might have wondered at times whether anyone truly understood the level of effort and reflection behind the person you have become. Yet being overlooked does not mean your value is invisible. What often happens in these situations is something far more interesting. While many people pass by without recognizing the depth of your abilities, there is often someone in the background paying close attention. This person may not announce their observations immediately. They watch quietly, observing how you respond to challenges, how you treat others, and how consistently you carry yourself over time. People who possess strong perception understand that real ability reveals itself through patterns rather than isolated moments. They notice how you handle responsibility when others avoid it. They recognize the calm way you solve problems that confuse those around you. They see how your insight often anticipates outcomes before they become obvious. These observations may accumulate slowly, but they create a powerful impression in the mind of someone who knows how to recognize genuine capability. The interesting part is that this recognition often happens long before you realize it. While you may have been focused on improving yourself and navigating your own journey, someone else was quietly observing the results of that growth. They noticed the discipline you maintained during difficult seasons. They saw the wisdom in your perspective. They recognized the rare balance between strength and humility that defines a chosen one who has developed their abilities through experience rather than attention.
This moment, when quiet strength finally gets noticed, rarely arrives with dramatic fanfare. It often begins with a shift in how someone looks at you, listens to you, or includes you in conversations that previously felt distant. Their respect does not come from a single impressive moment, but from a pattern they have been observing over time. And this is the key message that frames the entire journey. Sometimes the most meaningful recognition does not come from crowds or applause. It comes from individuals who watch carefully before speaking. These are the people who understand that true ability is revealed through consistency, patience, and character. When someone like this finally acknowledges your strength, their recognition carries a depth that casual praise can never match. The abilities you developed in silence begins in a place that most people never fully understand, because it unfolds away from applause, attention, and recognition. The chosen one did not build their strength in environments where encouragement was constant or where progress was immediately celebrated. Instead, much of your growth happened quietly, often during periods when no one seemed to be paying attention. While others were measuring success through visible milestones or public approval, you were engaged in a different kind of work, one that required patience, reflection, and discipline. The chosen one spent years learning, growing, and improving without external validation. This is a path that can feel lonely at times, because progress often goes unnoticed by those around you. You may have developed habits of reflection, studying problems more deeply than others, or refining your skills long after most people would have stopped trying. These efforts did not come with constant encouragement. In many cases, you had to motivate yourself, relying on your own internal sense of direction rather than waiting for approval from the outside world.
What makes this process powerful is that internal growth tends to produce abilities that are both subtle and durable. When people grow only in environments filled with praise, their development often depends on that praise continuing. But when growth happens in silence, the motivation comes from something deeper. The chosen one learns to pursue improvement not because someone is watching, but because the journey itself matters. Many of your strengths were built during difficult seasons of isolation or challenge. There may have been periods when circumstances forced you to step back from the noise of everyday life. Perhaps you faced setbacks, disappointments, or environments where your abilities were not fully appreciated. While others might have interpreted those seasons as stagnation or limitation, something very different was happening within you. Isolation has a unique way of sharpening awareness. Without the distractions of constant external opinions, you began observing your own thoughts more clearly. You started recognizing patterns in your decisions, learning from mistakes that others might have ignored. Challenges forced you to develop emotional resilience. Situations that felt overwhelming at first gradually taught you how to remain calm under pressure. In those moments, you were quietly strengthening abilities that many people never develop. Emotional discipline, patience, critical thinking, and spiritual awareness are rarely built in comfortable environments. They are shaped when circumstances require you to adapt, reflect, and grow without the safety of constant reassurance. Each challenge became a kind of training ground where you refined your perspective and learned how to navigate complexity with clarity. What makes this process even more interesting is how invisible it often appears to others. From the outside, your efforts may have looked ordinary. Someone might have seen you reading, working, reflecting, or practicing your craft, but they did not see the internal transformation taking place during those moments. They did not see the countless small decisions you made to stay disciplined when distractions were easier. They did not witness the inner dialogue where you chose growth over frustration, patience over impulsiveness, and reflection over reaction. What others saw as ordinary effort was actually deep personal development. The hours you spent studying a subject that fascinated you were shaping your expertise. The conversations where you listened more than you spoke were strengthening your ability to understand people. The moments when you stepped back to think before acting were sharpening your judgment. Over time, these small choices created a foundation that many people overlook because it develops gradually.
There is rarely a single moment when silent growth suddenly becomes obvious. Instead, it accumulates quietly until the chosen one reaches a point where their insight, stability, and capability stand out naturally. Looking back, you may even realize that some of the most difficult seasons in your life were also the most transformative. Situations that once felt isolating forced you to become self-reliant. Moments when you felt misunderstood pushed you to understand yourself more clearly. Challenges that seemed discouraging at the time became the experiences that shaped your resilience. This is why the abilities developed in silence carry such lasting strength. They were not built for recognition. They were built because the chosen one refused to stop growing, even when no one was watching. You continued improving, not because someone demanded it, but because something inside you recognized that your potential deserved to be developed. And while the world may not have noticed those years of quiet effort immediately, the impact of that development never disappears. The knowledge you gained, the discipline you cultivated, and the perspective you developed continue shaping every decision you make. Even when others did not recognize the depth of your journey, the transformation was already taking place. In the end, the abilities you developed in silence are not temporary skills or surface-level talents. They are part of who you have become, and as time moves forward, those quiet strengths begin revealing themselves in ways that others can finally see. Not because you suddenly changed, but because the growth that once happened in silence has matured into something impossible to ignore. Why most people didn't notice begins with a simple but important truth about how human attention works. Most people are trained, often without realizing it, to notice only what is loud, visible, and immediately impressive. Success that arrives with clear symbols, titles, money, recognition, or public praise tends to attract attention quickly. When someone wins a visible victory or stands in the spotlight, the world notices almost instantly. But the deeper forms of ability, the ones that develop quietly within a person's character, rarely announce themselves in such dramatic ways. This is why the chosen one can spend years building remarkable strength while remaining largely unseen. Many people only recognize obvious success or loud achievements because those are the signals society constantly highlights. People are conditioned to look for trophies, promotions, numbers, or applause as evidence that someone has accomplished something meaningful. These markers are easy to understand and easy to compare. When someone receives them, the recognition is immediate. But abilities that operate through subtle awareness do not follow that pattern. They reveal themselves through consistency rather than spectacle. The chosen one often carries strengths that operate beneath the surface. Emotional intelligence, for example, rarely appears dramatic. It reveals itself in how someone listens carefully before responding, how they maintain calm when others react impulsively, or how they understand the emotions behind a situation rather than focusing only on the obvious facts. These are powerful abilities, yet they do not produce immediate applause. In fact, they can appear almost invisible to people who are not paying close attention. Subtle intelligence works in a similar way. Someone with deep insight may notice patterns others miss. They may see solutions before problems fully appear, or understand complex dynamics within relationships or environments. But because this awareness often expresses itself quietly, through thoughtful decisions or careful observations, it does not attract the same kind of attention that loud confidence or dramatic statements might generate. To many observers, it simply looks like calm behavior rather than exceptional ability. Spiritual depth and inner awareness are perhaps even more easily overlooked. A person who has developed strong inner clarity tends to move through life with steadiness. They are not easily provoked by chaos around them. They reflect before reacting. They choose their words with care. Yet in environments where people measure influence through volume or competition, this kind of grounded presence can appear unremarkable at first glance. This is why the chosen one's abilities were hidden in plain sight. The strength you developed did not depend on external performance. It lived within the way you approached life itself. While others were competing for recognition, you were quietly refining your perspective, learning from experiences, and strengthening the qualities that shape wise decision-making. From the outside, these abilities might have looked like ordinary behavior. Someone may have simply seen you working steadily, listening attentively, or thinking deeply about a situation. They may not have realized that each of those moments represented years of internal development. Because your growth happened gradually and without spectacle, it blended into the background of everyday life. Another reason many people did not notice is that subtle strengths often challenge common expectations. When people imagine ability, they tend to picture bold displays of confidence or dramatic demonstrations of talent. Quiet competence can easily be mistaken for simplicity. Patience may look like passivity. Thoughtfulness may be interpreted as hesitation. In reality, these qualities often require far greater discipline than impulsive behavior ever could. Yet, while many people overlook these forms of strength, they never disappear. Quiet abilities continue influencing every situation you enter. They shape how you solve problems, how you interact with others, and how you navigate uncertainty. Over time, these subtle qualities begin creating outcomes that cannot easily be ignored. Eventually, someone who is observant enough begins noticing what others overlooked. They see the pattern behind your decisions. They recognize the emotional balance in how you handle challenges. They realize that the calm presence you carry is not accidental, but the result of deep personal development. And when that realization occurs, the truth becomes clear. The chosen one's abilities were never absent. They were simply hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone perceptive enough to recognize their quiet strength. The observer in the background begins unfolding in the quiet space where true perception lives. While many people moved through their daily routines without noticing the depth of the chosen one's growth, there was someone watching more carefully. This person was not searching for loud achievements or dramatic moments. Instead, they were paying attention to patterns. They noticed how you carried yourself when situations became difficult, how you responded when others reacted emotionally, and how consistently you showed integrity even when there was no reward for doing so. While others overlooked the chosen one, someone quietly noticed your consistency and character. This observer did not rush to speak or announce their thoughts. People who truly understand ability often prefer to watch first. They understand that real strength reveals itself through repeated actions over time, not through a single impressive moment. And so they began observing the way you navigated ordinary situations that others ignored. They noticed how you handled pressure when circumstances became demanding. While some people grew overwhelmed or defensive under stress, you approached challenges with calm reflection. Even when problems were complex, you showed patience rather than panic. To someone watching closely, this behavior revealed something important. It showed that your stability did not depend on easy circumstances. It was something you carried within you. The observer also paid attention to how you responded to setbacks. In many environments, setbacks quickly reveal a person's character. Some individuals become discouraged or blame others when things do not go as planned. But the chosen one approached setbacks differently. Instead of reacting with frustration, you treated difficulties as opportunities to learn.
You adjusted your approach, reflected on what could be improved, and continued moving forward. This resilience did not go unnoticed by the person who was watching carefully. They recognized that your strength was not built on perfect circumstances, but on the ability to adapt and grow. Every time you faced a challenge without losing your balance, the observer gained another piece of understanding about who you truly were. Responsibility was another quality that caught their attention. When tasks appeared that others avoided or neglected, you often stepped forward quietly. You did not seek recognition for handling those responsibilities. You simply did what needed to be done. To someone with perception, this behavior revealed discipline and reliability. It showed that you could be trusted with important matters, even when the situation required patience and effort. Over time, the observer began connecting all these moments together. Individually, each action might have appeared small or ordinary, but when seen as part of a larger pattern, they formed a powerful picture of your character. Consistency, resilience, calmness under pressure, and a willingness to carry responsibility are qualities that cannot be easily taught. They develop only through experience and personal growth. As the observer watched these qualities appear again and again, something began forming quietly within them. Their admiration did not appear suddenly or dramatically. Instead, it grew gradually through repeated observation. Each situation where you demonstrated maturity strengthened their respect. Each moment when you remained composed in difficult circumstances confirmed their growing belief in your abilities. What makes this admiration unique is that it developed without your awareness. While you were simply living your life and continuing your journey of growth, someone else was forming a deeper understanding of your potential. They were not influenced by rumors, appearances, or surface impressions. Their perception was based on direct observation. This is why the respect they developed carries such weight. It was not created by a single achievement or a moment of praise. It was built through quiet evidence gathered over time. The observer saw the chosen one clearly, even when others were distracted by louder signals around them. And in that silent recognition, something powerful began taking shape. The chosen one may not have realized it yet, but someone in the background had already recognized the strength that years of quiet development had created. The moment they realized your potential often arrives quietly, yet it carries a weight that can change everything. Up until this point, the observer in the background has been watching patiently, noticing patterns, gathering small pieces of evidence about who the chosen one truly is. They have seen your consistency, your calm under pressure, your thoughtful decisions, and your steady approach to responsibility. But there is always a moment when those observations come together in a way that suddenly makes everything clear. It is the moment when scattered impressions become certainty. A specific moment or situation reveals the chosen one's true capabilities. Sometimes it appears during a challenge that catches others off guard. A difficult problem arises, a situation becomes tense, or an unexpected obstacle appears. While many people hesitate or react emotionally, the chosen one responds differently. You pause, assess the situation carefully, and move forward with clarity. What may look like an ordinary response from your perspective is something far more significant to someone who has been observing. The observer recognizes something that others might overlook. In the way you handle that moment, they see discipline developed over years of practice. They notice the calm focus that allows you to think clearly while others become overwhelmed. They see wisdom in the way you consider consequences before acting. And perhaps most striking of all, they recognize a kind of natural ability that seems almost effortless to you
but extraordinary to someone watching from the outside. This realization does not always come during dramatic events. Sometimes it happens in a simple conversation where your insight reveals a deeper understanding of a complex situation. You might offer a solution that others had not considered, or express an idea with clarity that changes the direction of a discussion. In that moment, the observer sees how naturally your mind connects ideas, how easily you navigate complexity, and how confidently you remain grounded in your perspective. What they notice is not just skill, but the rare combination of qualities behind it. Discipline without arrogance. Insight without the need to dominate the conversation. Strength without unnecessary display. These traits reveal a level of maturity that cannot be easily manufactured. They are the result of the years you spent developing yourself quietly, long before anyone realized what you were becoming. The observer may not immediately announce this realization. People who truly recognize potential often take a moment to reflect on it privately. They replay the moment in their mind, considering what they just witnessed. The calm response, the thoughtful solution, the steady confidence. It all confirms what they have been slowly realizing over time. The chosen one possesses abilities that go far beyond what most people have noticed. That moment changes how they see you forever. From that point forward, every interaction carries a new awareness. When you speak, they listen more carefully. When you approach a problem, they pay closer attention to your method. What once looked like ordinary behavior now appears as the expression of a deeper capability. This shift in perception can subtly influence how the observer interacts with you. They may begin asking for your perspective more often, or include you in conversations where important decisions are being made. Their respect grows because they understand that your abilities are not temporary or accidental. They are rooted in years of personal growth and reflection. For the chosen one, this moment may pass without immediate recognition. You may not realize that someone has just witnessed your potential in a way others have not. You simply responded to a situation in the way that feels natural to you. Yet that natural response is exactly what makes the moment powerful. Because what you see as ordinary effort, someone else recognizes as extraordinary capability. And once that realization takes hold in the mind of a perceptive observer, the chosen one is no longer invisible. Your potential has been seen, understood, and remembered. The moment they realized your potential often arrives without warning, in the middle of an ordinary situation that suddenly reveals something extraordinary. Up until that point, the observer in the background has been watching quietly, noticing the small details others ignore. They have seen your consistency, your calm presence, your ability to navigate challenges without unnecessary drama. But observation alone can only go so far. Eventually, there comes a moment where everything they have noticed about you aligns into a single, clear realization. It is the moment when your true capability becomes undeniable. A specific moment or situation reveals the chosen one's true capabilities in a way that no explanation ever could. Sometimes this moment appears during a problem that others struggle to solve. A discussion becomes complicated, a decision must be made quickly, or a challenge creates tension in the environment. While others hesitate or react impulsively, the chosen one does something different. You slow down instead of speeding up. You observe instead of reacting immediately. You listen carefully, evaluate what is happening, and then respond with clarity. To you, this may feel completely natural. After all, it reflects the habits you developed during those quiet years of growth and reflection. But to someone observing from the outside,
the difference becomes striking. Where others see confusion, you see structure. Where others react emotionally, you remain grounded. That moment reveals a level of internal discipline that cannot be easily taught. The observer notices something that most people completely miss. While others may focus only on the outcome of the situation, the observer sees the process behind it. They notice the way you pause to consider multiple perspectives. They recognize the patience behind your decisions. They see the quiet confidence that allows you to speak clearly without needing to dominate the conversation. In that moment, the observer begins recognizing qualities that are far more valuable than surface-level skill. They see discipline that was built through years of persistence. They see wisdom that developed from experience rather than theory. And perhaps most importantly, they see a rare kind of talent that reveals itself through clarity of thought and steadiness of character. This realization can happen in many forms. It might appear during a moment when you guide a difficult conversation toward understanding instead of conflict. It might appear when you calmly solve a problem that others believed was impossible. It might appear when your insight reveals the deeper cause behind a situation that everyone else misunderstood. What makes this moment powerful is not its size or visibility. Sometimes it happens in a small conversation that only a few people witness. But the impact it creates in the mind of the observer is enormous. Because in that instant, the observer understands something they had only suspected before. The chosen one is not simply thoughtful or reliable. The chosen one possesses a depth of ability that sets them apart. The observer sees how naturally you carry this strength. There is no need for you to announce your capability or demand recognition. It appears through your actions. It is visible in the way you handle pressure, the way you communicate ideas, and the way you remain composed in situations where others become overwhelmed. And this realization changes how they see you forever. Once someone recognizes genuine ability, it becomes impossible to ignore it afterward. The observer begins noticing the same qualities in every interaction moving forward. Your perspective carries greater weight in their mind. Your presence in discussions becomes something they pay attention to rather than overlook. This shift in perception often happens long before you realize it. From your perspective, you simply responded to a situation in the way that felt natural. You did what you have trained yourself to do through years of quiet development. But from the observer's perspective, that moment revealed the full picture of who you are becoming. They begin understanding that your abilities were not accidental. They were built patiently through experience, reflection, and perseverance. Every challenge you faced in the past contributed to the clarity you demonstrated in that moment. For the chosen one, these moments may feel small, almost insignificant. But to someone who understands how rare genuine capability is, they become unforgettable. The observer remembers how you handled that situation. They remember the calmness in your voice, the clarity in your thinking, and the discipline behind your actions. And from that point forward, something important has changed. The chosen one is no longer simply another person in the background. Your potential has been recognized. Your ability has been witnessed. And once someone truly sees that level of strength, their perception of you can never return to what it was before. Why genuine ability always attracts attention begins with a truth that many chosen ones slowly discover through experience rather than theory. Real ability carries a presence that does not depend on promotion, applause, or constant explanation. It reveals itself through consistency, clarity, and results over time. While loud displays of confidence may capture temporary attention, genuine capability operates differently. It creates a quiet gravity that perceptive people eventually notice, even when the person carrying that ability never tries to stand in the spotlight. True capability has a natural energy that draws attention from those who know how to observe carefully.
This energy is not dramatic or theatrical. It appears through patterns of behavior that repeat themselves across different situations. When a person consistently demonstrates thoughtful decision-making, calmness under pressure, and the ability to understand complex problems, these qualities begin forming a distinct impression in the minds of those paying attention. For most people, this energy might pass unnoticed because they are focused on louder signals. But perceptive individuals recognize something deeper. They understand that true strength rarely needs to announce itself. Instead of seeking attention, it simply continues performing at a high level, regardless of whether anyone is watching. This is why genuine ability eventually begins attracting attention from the right observers. Someone with insight notices how the chosen one approaches challenges. They see the discipline behind your actions and the patience within your thinking. While others may focus on short-term results, the perceptive observer recognizes the process that produced those results. These individuals often understand something many people overlook. Excellence rarely appears suddenly. It is built through repeated effort, learning from mistakes, and refining skills through experience. When they observe someone demonstrating clarity, reliability, and thoughtful leadership in difficult situations, they recognize the long journey behind that behavior. Those with insight are particularly sensitive to this kind of excellence because they have often walked similar paths themselves. They understand the difference between confidence that comes from practice and confidence that comes from performance. They know how to distinguish someone who is simply speaking loudly from someone who truly understands what they are doing. Because of this awareness, they recognize excellence even when it is not loudly displayed. In fact, many perceptive individuals trust quiet competence more than dramatic displays of ability. Loud confidence can sometimes hide insecurity, but calm consistency usually reflects genuine understanding. When the chosen one demonstrates this quiet competence repeatedly, perceptive observers begin noticing something remarkable. They see how your actions align with your words. They notice that your solutions often bring clarity to confusing situations. They observe that your decisions tend to produce stability where others create chaos. These observations gradually build a reputation around the chosen one, even if you never intentionally seek it. People begin remembering how you handled a difficult moment with calm wisdom. They recall how your perspective helped resolve a problem others struggled with. Over time, these memories accumulate in the minds of those who recognize true capability. This is why authentic skill cannot remain hidden forever. While it may remain unnoticed during certain seasons, especially when environments reward noise over substance, genuine ability eventually reveals itself through results. Patterns of success, thoughtful leadership, and reliable judgment create a trail of evidence that others cannot ignore indefinitely. Even when recognition arrives slowly, the impact is often more meaningful. When someone notices ability after observing it over time, their respect carries greater depth. They are not reacting to a single impressive moment. They are acknowledging a consistent pattern of strength and insight. For the chosen one, this realization can bring a sense of reassurance. There may have been times when you wondered whether your efforts were invisible, or whether the quiet work you invested in your growth truly mattered. But genuine development always leaves traces. The discipline you practiced, the knowledge you gained, and the resilience you cultivated eventually become visible in how you handle real situations. As time passes, those who are capable of recognizing excellence begin gravitating toward the chosen one. They see potential where others saw ordinary effort. They recognize the difference between someone who seeks attention and someone who naturally commands respect through their presence and capability. In this way, genuine ability acts almost like a signal that perceptive people can detect. It may not attract the entire crowd immediately, but it inevitably reaches the individuals who understand its value. And once those individuals notice it, The recognition that follows tends to be thoughtful, sincere, and lasting. This is why the chosen one does not need to chase recognition. Real capability does not rely on constant promotion. It simply continues growing and expressing itself through action. And in time, those who know how to see beyond surface appearances inevitably notice the strength that was quietly developing all along. The respect that forms quietly develops in a way that is very different from the kind of admiration most people are familiar with. In many environments, praise appears quickly. Someone performs well in a single moment, speaks confidently, or achieves something visible, and recognition follows almost immediately. But the kind of respect that forms around the chosen one rarely appears in that sudden way. It grows slowly, almost invisibly at first, like a foundation being laid beneath the surface where few people notice the work taking place. Instead of immediate praise, the observer develops deep respect over time. The person who has been quietly watching does not rush to compliment or celebrate your abilities after a single moment of success. They understand that true capability is not proven through isolated achievements. It reveals itself through patterns that remain consistent across different situations. Because of this understanding, they continue observing, allowing time to confirm what they have begun to notice. This process often unfolds through repeated encounters where the chosen one demonstrates reliability and intelligence in ways that may appear ordinary to others. Perhaps you consistently offer thoughtful solutions during challenging discussions. Perhaps you maintain calm judgment when situations become stressful. Perhaps you handle responsibilities with a level of discipline that others quietly depend on, even if they do not openly acknowledge it. The observer notices these patterns. They see how you approach problems methodically rather than impulsively. They recognize how your perspective often brings clarity when conversations become complicated. Over time, these repeated demonstrations of competence begin forming a strong impression in their mind. Each moment adds another layer to their understanding of who you are. Reliability is often one of the most powerful signals that draws their respect. When someone proves dependable in both small and large matters, it creates a sense of trust that cannot easily be replaced. The observer begins realizing that when you are involved in a task or discussion, the outcome tends to become more stable and thoughtful. Your presence contributes balance rather than chaos. Intelligence also becomes visible through your approach to situations. Not the kind of intelligence that demands attention or seeks to impress others with complexity, but the kind that quietly understands what truly matters. The observer notices how you listen carefully before speaking, how you weigh different perspectives, and how your solutions tend to address the root of a problem rather than its surface symptoms. What makes this recognition meaningful is that it forms without pressure or expectation. The observer is not trying to prove anything to others. They are simply allowing their perception to develop naturally as they watch your behavior over time. This creates a type of respect that is far deeper than admiration, built on excitement or novelty. Respect grows stronger when it is built through observation rather than immediate reaction. People who recognize ability slowly tend to value it more deeply because they have witnessed it repeatedly. Each moment where you demonstrate integrity, patience, or thoughtful judgment reinforces their belief that your abilities are genuine. This kind of respect carries a quiet weight. It does not need to be announced publicly to exist. Often, the observer expresses it through subtle changes in behavior. They begin listening more closely when you speak. They may seek your opinion when facing a difficult decision. They might involve you in conversations or opportunities where your insight can make a difference. From the outside, these changes may appear small, but they reveal something important. The observer now trusts your ability. They recognize that your perspective carries value, and they want to understand how you see the world. Their respect is not based on admiration alone, but on confidence in your character and judgment. For the chosen one, this stage can feel both surprising and affirming. Because the respect formed quietly, you may not have realized how deeply someone had been observing your actions. You simply continued living according to your values, doing your best in each situation, without expecting recognition. Yet this is exactly what makes the respect meaningful. It was not earned through performance or self-promotion. It was earned through authenticity. The observer recognized the discipline, intelligence, and integrity behind your actions, because they watched those qualities appear again and again. In a world where attention often focuses on loud achievements, this kind of quiet respect stands apart.
It is built on understanding rather than excitement, and once it forms, it tends to last far longer than admiration that appears quickly. And as this respect continues growing in the mind of the observer, something important begins taking shape. The chosen one is no longer simply someone they noticed in passing. You have become someone whose presence carries significance. Someone whose abilities deserve recognition not because they were loudly displayed, but because they were consistently proven. Why the chosen one often underestimates themselves begins with a quiet paradox that many gifted individuals experience without fully realizing it. The very abilities that make the chosen one exceptional are often the same abilities they struggle to recognize within themselves. Because these strengths developed gradually and became part of their natural way of thinking, the chosen one rarely views them as extraordinary. What others see as impressive capability often feels like ordinary behavior from the inside. Many chosen ones become so accustomed to their abilities that they simply view them as normal parts of everyday life. When you spend years developing insight, patience, discipline, or creativity, those qualities eventually become habits rather than achievements. You respond thoughtfully because that is how you always approach situations. You remain calm during challenges because you have practiced that stability through countless experiences. Over time, these responses feel automatic, almost effortless. Because of this familiarity, the chosen one rarely stops to consider how unusual these qualities might appear to others. From your perspective, you are simply doing what makes sense. You are applying the lessons you have learned through reflection and experience. But from the outside, people notice something very different.
They see someone navigating complexity with clarity, solving problems with calm intelligence, and maintaining emotional balance in situations that overwhelm most people. The gap between these two perspectives creates an interesting dynamic. The chosen one believes they are behaving normally, while observers recognize the rare discipline behind those actions. What feels natural to you may require significant effort for someone else. The way you analyze a situation, remain patient during tension, or understand deeper motivations within people may look effortless because you have practiced it for so long. They forget that what feels natural to them is extraordinary to others. This happens because humans measure ability based on their own internal experience. If something comes easily to you, your mind assumes it must be easy for everyone else as well. You may not realize that the clarity you bring to difficult decisions, the empathy you show during conversations, or the discipline you demonstrate in your work reflects years of development that others have not gone through. Another reason the chosen one underestimates their abilities is that their journey was not always accompanied by recognition. During the years when you were developing your strengths quietly, there may have been little external feedback confirming your progress. You might have worked through challenges alone, learning through trial and error, without someone pointing out how much you were improving. Without that external perspective, it becomes easy to assume that your abilities are simply average. Self-doubt can also play a powerful role in shaping how the chosen one sees themselves. People who think deeply about their actions often hold themselves to very high standards. Instead of celebrating the progress they have made, they focus on what still needs improvement. This mindset encourages continuous growth, but it can also make it difficult to recognize how far you have already come. Self-doubt may whisper subtle questions into your thoughts. You might wonder whether your insights are truly valuable, or whether others simply see them differently. You might question whether your ideas are strong enough, or whether your abilities are truly exceptional. These doubts can make the chosen one hesitant to fully acknowledge their own strengths. Ironically, this humility often becomes one of the qualities that observers respect the most. When someone carries significant ability, but remains grounded and thoughtful rather than arrogant, it creates a powerful impression. The observer who has been paying attention recognizes that your humility is not weakness, but maturity. It shows that your focus remains on learning and growth rather than on proving yourself. What the chosen one may not realize is that the qualities they take for granted are often the exact traits that others admire. Your patience during stressful situations, your ability to see patterns in complex problems, and your thoughtful communication may seem ordinary to you, but to someone else, they reveal a level of capability that stands apart. This realization often becomes clearer only when others begin expressing their respect openly. When someone acknowledges your insight or reliability, it can feel surprising because you never viewed those qualities as unusual. Yet those moments of recognition serve as reminders that your perspective is shaped by familiarity with your own abilities. Understanding this dynamic allows the chosen one to begin seeing themselves more clearly. Recognizing your strengths does not mean abandoning humility. It simply means acknowledging the growth you have achieved through years of quiet effort. When you understand the value of your abilities, you can use them more confidently and intentionally. In the end, the reason the chosen one often underestimates themselves is the same reason their abilities are so powerful. They did not develop those strengths to impress others. They developed them to navigate life with wisdom and resilience. And while those abilities may feel natural to you, they remain extraordinary to the people perceptive enough to recognize them. The shift in how others begin seeing you does not arrive like a sudden spotlight turning on. It begins much more quietly, almost like a subtle change in the atmosphere around you. For a long time, the chosen one may have moved through environments where their abilities remained mostly unnoticed. People may have seen only the surface of who you were, missing the deeper strengths that had been developing beneath the surface. But once the observer in the background recognizes your capability, something begins to change in ways that slowly influence the people around you. Gradually, more people start recognizing the chosen one's abilities, though they may not fully understand why their perception has shifted. Often it begins with small moments where your insight becomes more visible. Someone notices that your ideas bring clarity to a complex discussion. Another person realizes that when you handle a situation, the outcome tends to be more thoughtful and stable. These observations may appear minor on their own, but when they repeat across different situations, they start forming a pattern that others cannot easily ignore. One person's recognition often becomes the starting point for others to notice what was previously overlooked. When someone respected within a group begins listening carefully to your perspective, others become curious about what they might be missing. The observer who quietly admired your abilities may begin including you more often in important conversations. They may ask for your opinion when decisions need careful thought. These actions signal to others that your voice carries weight. Over time, People begin noticing how your presence influences the quality of discussions and decisions. They see that when you speak, your words tend to bring direction rather than confusion. They notice that your approach to problems often reveals solutions others had not considered. What once seemed like ordinary participation now appears as valuable insight. As this awareness grows, opportunities or invitations begin appearing in ways that feel both surprising and natural. Someone might invite you to contribute to a project that requires thoughtful leadership. Another person may ask for your guidance when facing a difficult challenge. These invitations are not random. They are the result of people slowly recognizing that your abilities bring something meaningful to the environments you enter. The interesting part of this process is that it rarely feels forced. The chosen one does not suddenly start seeking recognition or demanding attention. Instead, the shift happens organically because others begin seeing the results of your quiet development. The respect that once existed only in the mind of a single observer starts spreading through shared experiences. Sometimes this shift appears through subtle changes in how people interact with you. Conversations may become more thoughtful. Others may pause to hear your perspective before forming their own conclusions. You may notice that people who once overlooked your ideas now ask questions about how you see a situation. These small changes reflect a growing recognition that your presence carries value. For the chosen one, this stage can feel both encouraging and slightly unfamiliar. For years, you may have been accustomed to operating quietly without expecting acknowledgement. You focused on growth rather than recognition. When opportunities begin appearing, it can take time to adjust to the idea that others now see the abilities you developed in silence. Yet this recognition is not something that appeared suddenly out of nowhere. It is the natural result of the discipline and insight you cultivated over time. The observer who first noticed your potential helped create a shift in perception. But the foundation of that recognition was built through your consistent actions. The recognition that once seemed distant begins becoming real. What once felt like quiet development happening in isolation now begins influencing the world around you. People start realizing that the qualities you carry, clarity, patience, intelligence, and reliability, are not common traits. They begin understanding that your perspective offers something valuable. As this shift continues, the chosen one starts recognizing that their abilities were never meant to remain hidden forever. They were simply waiting for the right moment and the right observers to recognize their significance. The opportunities appearing now are not accidents. They are the natural response to years of quiet preparation. In many ways, this stage represents a turning point. The chosen one moves from being someone who quietly developed their abilities to someone whose presence begins shaping the environments they enter. And while the recognition may arrive gradually, its impact becomes unmistakable. The strengths you once built in silence are now beginning to find their place in the world around you. What this recognition means for your future begins unfolding at the moment when the quiet recognition that once existed only in the mind of an observer starts influencing the direction of your life. For a long time, the chosen one may have focused solely on developing their abilities, refining their thinking, and strengthening their character without expecting any particular reward. The growth itself was the priority. But when someone perceptive finally notices the depth of that development, the impact often extends far beyond a simple compliment or moment of admiration. Being noticed by the right person can open unexpected doors in ways that the chosen one may never have anticipated. Recognition from someone who understands genuine ability carries a different kind of power. This is not the fleeting attention that comes from surface impressions or temporary excitement. Instead, It is the recognition that comes from observation, from someone who has carefully studied your actions and understood the discipline behind them. When such a person acknowledges your capability, they often begin thinking about how your strengths might contribute to larger opportunities. Sometimes this begins with a simple conversation. The observer may approach you with curiosity, asking how you developed the perspective or discipline they noticed. They may express genuine interest in your ideas, not out of politeness, but because they truly value your insight. In that moment, the chosen one begins sensing that the relationship has shifted from casual observation to meaningful engagement. From there, new possibilities can start emerging. Mentorship may become one of the first pathways that opens. A perceptive observer who recognizes potential often feels a natural desire to nurture it. They may begin sharing knowledge, offering advice, or providing guidance based on their own experiences. This mentorship does not feel forced or formal. It grows organically through conversations, shared ideas, and moments where wisdom is passed from one person to another. Mentorship can be transformative because it accelerates the chosen one's growth. Instead of navigating every challenge alone, you now have access to someone who understands the path you are walking. Their perspective can help you avoid certain mistakes and recognize opportunities that might otherwise remain hidden. Through this relationship, the quiet abilities you developed in isolation begin interacting with new levels of knowledge and experience. Support can also appear in subtle but meaningful forms. The observer who respects your abilities may recommend you for responsibilities that align with your strengths. They might introduce you to environments where your insight can make a difference. Sometimes, support appears simply through encouragement. Someone reminding you that the abilities you carry have real value and deserve to be used with confidence. Collaboration often becomes the next stage of this evolving recognition. When two individuals recognize each other's strengths, they begin exploring ways to work together. The observer, who once watched from a distance, may now invite the chosen one into projects or initiatives where your abilities can contribute directly. These collaborations can reveal new dimensions of your capability because they place your strengths within larger contexts. Through mentorship, support, and collaboration, the chosen one's abilities begin creating real influence. Influence does not necessarily mean authority or control. It means that your perspective begins shaping outcomes in ways that were not possible before. Ideas you once explored quietly may now influence decisions that affect others. The clarity you bring to complex situations may help guide teams or communities toward more thoughtful solutions. This stage can feel both exciting and humbling for the chosen one. For years, your abilities existed primarily as personal tools for navigating life. Now, they begin serving a broader purpose. Situations arise where your insight helps resolve confusion. People may turn to you for advice during difficult moments. Your presence in discussions begins shaping how others think about challenges. With this influence comes a deeper understanding of responsibility. The chosen one recognizes that their words and actions now carry greater weight. When people trust your perspective, they are placing confidence in your judgment. This trust encourages you to remain grounded in the qualities that earned their respect in the first place: integrity, patience, and thoughtful reflection. As opportunities continue appearing, the chosen one also begins seeing their own journey in a new light. The years spent developing abilities in silence were not wasted time or hidden effort. They were preparation. Each moment of discipline, each lesson learned through challenge, and each experience that refined your perspective contributed to the person you have become. Recognition from the right observer simply illuminated what was already there. It did not create your abilities, it revealed them. And now that those abilities are being recognized, they can begin influencing the world beyond your private journey of growth. This is what makes the future feel different from the past. In earlier seasons, the chosen one may have felt as though they were walking alone, refining their perspective without knowing where it might lead. Now, the path begins expanding. Doors that once seemed distant start opening through relationships built on respect and understanding. The chosen one realizes that recognition is not about receiving attention for its own sake. It is about connection. When the right people notice your abilities, they help create environments where those abilities can make a meaningful impact. And as this influence grows, the chosen one discovers something profound. The strengths developed in silence were never meant to remain hidden forever. They were meant to reach the moment where someone perceptive would see them clearly and help bring them into a space where they could contribute to something larger than personal growth alone. The responsibility of your gifts begins at the moment when recognition transforms into something deeper than admiration. Being noticed for your abilities may feel rewarding at first, especially after years of quiet effort and unnoticed growth. But for the chosen one, recognition is never meant to be the final destination. It is the beginning of a new stage where the abilities you developed in silence now carry a greater purpose. When others begin recognizing the depth of your character, your insight, and your discipline, something important changes. Your presence begins influencing the environments around you. And with that influence comes responsibility. Recognition brings new responsibility because the chosen one's abilities no longer exist only for personal development. The wisdom you cultivated through experience, the calm judgment you practiced during challenges, and the insight you gained through reflection now affect others in ways that may not have happened before. People begin paying closer attention to your perspective. They observe how you respond to situations. Your words carry weight because they come from someone who has demonstrated reliability and thoughtful understanding. For the chosen one, this shift requires a new level of awareness. When your influence grows, every decision becomes more meaningful. The way you handle challenges, the tone you use in conversations, and the values you demonstrate through your actions begin shaping how others think and behave. People who respect your abilities may start looking to you for guidance, even if they do not say it directly. This is why humility becomes one of the most important qualities the chosen one must continue protecting. Recognition can sometimes create the illusion that growth has reached its peak. But true ability continues evolving. The chosen one understands that every stage of development opens the door to deeper learning. Instead of becoming comfortable with recognition, you remain curious and committed to improving your understanding. The chosen one must continue developing their abilities with humility and purpose. Humility allows you to remain open to new ideas, new lessons, and new perspectives. It reminds you that even the strongest insight can grow deeper through experience. Purpose, on the other hand, gives direction to your abilities. Without purpose, talent can easily become scattered or self-centered. But when guided by a clear intention to contribute positively, your abilities begin serving something greater than personal success. Purpose also reminds the chosen one that influence is not about control or authority. It is about creating positive change. The calm thinking you developed during difficult moments can help others navigate confusion. The patience you practiced during setbacks can encourage someone who is struggling to keep going. The clarity you bring to complex situations can help others see possibilities they might have missed. As people begin recognizing your strengths, opportunities to help others naturally appear. Someone may approach you seeking advice during a challenging moment. A group may invite you to contribute your perspective on an important decision. A younger person may look to you as an example of what thoughtful growth can achieve. These moments may seem small individually,
but together they form the true impact of your influence. The chosen one's influence can now positively impact others in ways that extend beyond immediate recognition. Your presence may inspire someone to approach challenges with more patience. Your ability to remain calm under pressure may encourage others to think before reacting. The wisdom you share through simple conversations may help someone discover their own potential. What makes this influence meaningful is that it grows naturally from authenticity. You do not need to become someone different to guide others. The same qualities that defined your journey, discipline, reflection, empathy, and resilience, are the qualities that now help others grow as well. People recognize these traits not because they are announced loudly, but because they are consistently demonstrated. With this responsibility also comes the reminder that the chosen one must remain grounded in the same values that shaped their journey. Integrity must remain at the center of every decision.
The recognition you receive should never replace the discipline that helped you develop your abilities in the first place. Instead, it should strengthen your commitment to using those abilities wisely. As the chosen one continues moving forward, the purpose of your gifts becomes clearer. They were never meant only for personal achievement or recognition. They were developed through years of quiet effort, so they could eventually contribute to the well-being and growth of others. And in this realization, the chosen one discovers the true meaning behind recognition. It is not simply about being seen, it is about being trusted with the opportunity to make a difference. When your abilities are guided by humility, wisdom, and purpose, the influence you carry becomes something far more powerful than recognition alone. It becomes a force that quietly shapes the lives of those around you. The recognition you never asked for arrives as a quiet understanding rather than a dramatic ending. When the chosen one looks back on the journey, it becomes clear that none of the recognition appearing now was something you chased or demanded. For years, your focus remained on something far more important: growth. You refined your thinking, strengthened your character, and developed your abilities during seasons when no one seemed to notice. While others measured success through immediate validation, you continued building something deeper beneath the surface. The message here is simple but powerful. True ability does not require constant promotion in order to exist. Skills that are rooted in discipline, wisdom, and experience naturally reveal themselves through action. A person may try to announce their talent loudly, but genuine strength carries a different quality. It expresses itself through consistency, thoughtful decisions, and the calm confidence that comes from understanding rather than performance. Over time, people who pay attention eventually recognize genuine strength. Not everyone will see it immediately. Some will overlook it entirely because they are searching only for obvious signals of success. But there are always individuals who observe more carefully. These people notice patterns that others miss. They see how you handle challenges, how you treat others, and how your insight brings clarity to difficult situations. For the chosen one, this recognition is not something to cling to or depend on. It is simply a sign that the work you have been doing quietly is beginning to appear in the world around you. The encouragement moving forward is to continue growing without needing approval as your motivation. Your discipline, curiosity, and purpose should remain stronger than any praise you receive. And this leads to the final realization. Someone noticing your abilities is not a coincidence. It is the natural result of the character you have shaped through years of effort, reflection, and perseverance. The recognition you never asked for simply reveals what has been developing within you all along.